So hey, so we're I think it's we've got a couple of people that are just getting online here, and so we'll go ahead and get started so we finish on time. And so hi everybody, thank you so much for joining us for this information session for the TBN Asia Expertise Network. So what's exciting, of course, for me is looking at all of these faces of experts. So I can't wait to learn more about you and hear more about what you do and why you're here. To kick us off, so what's going to happen is we're going to have a couple of just a welcome from the TBN Asia chair, Melvin Mak, and then we've got a brief kind of a PowerPoint deck we'll run through and just some information about the Expertise Network. We'll have some expert sharing. We've got one of our experts that's going to share about his experience of supporting a social entrepreneur. And then we're going to share what our priority needs are right now. So we have two categories of volunteering opportunities. Some are with our social entrepreneurs and others are with the TBN Asia itself and the Secretariat. And then lots of time for questions, discussion, whatever other concerns or interests or ideas that you'd like to share would be great. So with that, I will turn it over to Melvin. Over to you.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for tuning in, joining this discussion that we have. As you can see, my backdrop is still there. That's because the conference has a follow-through. Okay, and like Wayne, who is our Social Entrepreneurship Training Hub lead, says, he's busier than ever. So we actually have a lot of follow through, but just for the sake of those who are like, all right, there's so many to take in. I just want to start by again introducing TBN, okay? So TBN stands for Transformational Business Network Asia. We got incorporated in Singapore as a non-profit, right? And the aim and the mission is fighting poverty through enterprise. The focus is Southeast Asian nations, so that's where we are. And right now we have what we call 5 pillars that represents our ecosystem, because TBN is basically working within an impact network. So the ecosystem is represented by these 5 pillars. The first one is Social Entrepreneurship Training Hub that equips social enterprises that are revenue generating to get them investment ready. So you can see the lead who is there, this young man, handsome young man. I don't know, in my screen, he is actually on my left of the screen. So Wayne is the lead for that, and we are ongoing, we are running. We are actually already starting our registration of the second cohort, because the first cohort is finishing. So Social Entrepreneurship Training Hub as one of the pillars. The second pillar is what we call the Expertise Network, and that's where we are right now, because it is a network that brings together, for example, all the business mentors, the specialists in every sector, all right, of industry and of economy, and of course life coaches as well. So this is very important to walk alongside the social enterprises and the entrepreneurs. The third pillar will be what we call the Investors Club. We are networking with a few groups of Investors Club in different nations. So right now we have Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines, Bangkok, Hong Kong, Australia maybe is coming up, and then perhaps a few afar, which includes Japan. So this is still ongoing. And then the fifth pillar, or the fourth pillar, is the conferences, the conference and events. So after the conference that we have done right now, actually events are ongoing. For example, I think we hope to see monthly or bi-monthly, we've got webinar talks, events to keep people updated. So one is coming up on the 1st of July. Okay. And then conferences next year, we would be running probably in 2 countries, Indonesia and Malaysia as our focus. And then the 5th pillar is what we call the resilience program. Basically, it's really a concrete plan to bring about helping struggling social enterprises, especially in Malaysia and Singapore. So we are right now having a structure that's being formalized already with partners in Indonesia and Malaysia. And actually out of this conference, all our collection, we've collected about 60 over 1,000 Singapore dollars, okay? It will all goes into this resilience fund, a resilience program, which will be seed money. So donations incoming as well. So we hope to build this fund to, I don't know, 80, 100,000. So that's where we are. So that's the intro, and we hope that the conference itself is a great success, and we really hope to see the volunteers coming in, because it's only possible with volunteers, because largely, even as a chairman, I'm pro bono, okay? So we have people who are working part-time, probably about 1 to 3 in the team. The rest are all volunteers, but volunteers are some people who make it successful, who make it happen, okay? Because volunteers bring in what we call their time and their talent and the treasure. And it is really for this very reason that the expertise network lives on. So thank you so much for all of you. You are potential volunteers. We hope to sign you up all as volunteers to be part and parcel of this exciting journey of working alongside us. All right. Thank you so much. And right now I hand the time over back to Christy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Melvin. Appreciate it. Okay, so we'll just dive right into what exactly is the Enterprise Network. And let me share a little bit about that. So Bernice is going to share the screen, and we'll get started here. So next, please. Right, so the whole purpose is, as Melvin just said, is just basically to turn and transform and translate your experience, skills, networks, knowledge into impact, into measurable impact. Next, please. So what are experts? Next, please. So it's a group of professionals, and actually, as Melvin just said, many of us are we are experts in our own area of domain, our own fields, but we are volunteering our time, our skills, our expertise, our knowledge, and our networks to support the social entrepreneurs and purpose-driven businesses that are supported by the TBN Asia network and in our ecosystem. So the other area that we serve is in the Secretariat itself. Actually, I'm looking at Wayne and Bernice, for example. They both, I think, actually kind of more than, they double and triple hat. But they both work in the Secretariat for TBN Asia, without whom we would have never, actually the conference wouldn't have happened last week. So we're excited to share some very specific opportunities here in just a minute about what the opportunities and the needs with TBN Asia are. Okay, next. So there's 3 types of experts when we look at supporting our social entrepreneurs in particular. There's 3 types of experts to come alongside and work with our social enterprises. The first is a specialist advisor. So that is, you are an expert in something very specific, and you've got some examples there, but it's everything, on the kind of the nuts and bolts side of operations and finance and legal, but it's also on things like sales and marketing and HR. So basically any of the things that are required to make a business run and run well, we have needs in. The second is a business mentor. This is someone who actually has run a business, has built a business, or has deep business knowledge and experience. And so that's really focused more on the business strategy and the business model itself. The third type of expert is a coach. And the coach focuses on personal development. So it's on the person, themselves, not the business per se, but the leadership and the personal development that's required to take an enterprise forward. And also to be able to translate their vision into, thanks Bernice, that's fine, into future success that impacts the lives of people. So very simple, actually. So how do we move forward? How can you be an expert? Okay, so qualifications. I mean, the first qualification is that you're an expert in your field. So one of those three categories, right? So sorry, that is a prerequisite. And then we come into other qualifications that are so important, and that's these things here. One is you share our passion for ending poverty. You know, coming alongside people who are committing their lives and their resources to changing the lives of people to eliminate poverty in Southeast Asia. So obviously, with that, you've got that passion. You're a listener, a great listener. You're curious about the entrepreneur, about what they're doing, about the people that they're serving. You're interested in social innovation. What is social innovation? Creative approaches that change people's lives for the better, that create positive social change and social impact. And you would welcome an opportunity to learn brand new things, to lead conversations and have experiences that widen your mind and allow you moments that it's like, I never thought of that before. Or I've never seen that before. So this is an opportunity for that as well. Next, please. So how long is the commitment? What do we ask from you? Actually, we're super flexible because we understand that some of our entrepreneurs may need someone to walk alongside for a number of months. And Wayne can chat a little bit, and Jeremy will be chatting here shortly about that kind of partnership with the social entrepreneurs as part of our SETH program. The Training Hub program, and there are also others in our ecosystem. So there would be potentially a little bit more of a time commitment required, say over some months. But at the same time, we also have sometimes one-off projects, one-off needs, and you come in and you kind of just roll up your sleeves and you do the dirty work, and then you say, great, thanks, I'm so glad to have made a contribution, and you can take your leave. So I mean, we have a multitude of ways to work together, and we're very flexible, and we're very happy to find mutually beneficial win-win partnerships. Okay, with you. So specific, so go ahead and carry on to the next one there, Bernice, yeah. And again, yeah. So I'm not going to read this out, but I'll leave these sit here for a moment. So if you are someone that's interested in the first category, which is really coming alongside a social entrepreneur, these are very specific enterprises and the needs that they have. And I think these all are, Bernice, are these all in Malaysia or Indonesia? Are there any in the Philippines, or are they all Malaysia and Indonesia?
I think most are, yep, they're mostly Indonesian.
Okay.
Philippines.
Yeah.
There is one that's in Singapore, which is Agape.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay.
And there's one in Thailand, Kestrel.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Great. So if you see anything there or a company name that grabs your attention, we'll share this around later as well. You see the skills that they need. We can talk about that. Okay, yep. And then the next opportunity area is with the Secretariat itself. It's with us. And you can see there's our laundry list there. So I'll let you take a spin through that too. Okay, so that's pretty much, it's pretty short and sweet. Wanted to make sure that we have plenty of time to have Jeremy share and to have some conversation as well. So we would love to hear what you think. But before that, I think there's one more. Is there one more slide, Bernice? I think this is it. Yeah. So there is my contact details, which I think most of you received an email from me, so you know where to find me. That was actually from my SMU address. where I actually work. I don't think I actually properly introduced myself, but I'm actually working at the Leon Center for Social Innovation at Singapore Management University, which is where you would have gotten the address from. But I am also a volunteer and on the board at TBN Asia. So there's my TBN Asia email. Great. So quick, just before we open up the floor for some conversation, and then I'm going to turn it over to Jeremy as well. I'm going to turn it to Bernice, who's got a quick poll for us.
Yeah, so we just thought it would be helpful to have a better understanding of where everyone's coming from. And so we're going to do a really quick poll if you can get your phones out, or if you can, I guess, put this up on your screen. It's going to be on Mentimeter. So let me just pull this up here. Okay. So you would go to menti.com, menti.com, and on the top there you'll see a option to put in a code. So let's see, I'll just put menti.com, and then the code is 124033, and then you'll hit submit. And then once you do that, you'll have 3 different options that you can press. How are you feeling about the expertise network? We're just trying to try to get a gauge of, great, we have someone who wants to sign up right now. Are there people who are on the fence, people who are not sure that they want to join? We just want to get a gauge of where people are at right now. So we've got 3, I think there's 21 people in here in the Zoom room. So if we can get a good amount, that would be helpful. We got 5 people, 6.
I will say, as you guys are thinking about this, I mean, we're giving you this poll with a minimal amount of information, so we do understand that. So Bernice, we should actually do it again after Jeremy has shared his story.
Yeah,
he's the real life expert amongst us that's already walked the path, and he'll have some more stories perhaps to share that might convince the pink people and the blue people. But
well, before we do that, we're going to just do one more question, and just again to see who else is in the room.
okay.
It'd be helpful to see what professional skills are you wanting to utilize. So on that same page, it should now hopefully have refreshed to say what professional skills are you wanting to utilize. So are you in IT? Are you in tech? Are you a salesperson? Are you wanting to be a business mentor? It'd be just take a few minutes. You can enter more than one. If there's more than one area that you're wanting to utilize, please put that in, and then you should be able to hit submit at the bottom, and it should populate up on my screen. Let's see if it'll work here. All right, we got technology industry, marketing comms, we got a coach, got HR, someone has experience of running a enterprise.
Yes,
Great.
I like the graphics.
Yeah, this is great. Yeah.
Yeah, you got some finance, consulting, marketing. Great. So we have some of good breadth. I see some people still on their phones. Okay, give a few more minutes. Great. Business strategy. Great. Engineering. Got some electrical engineering.
So Bernice, is the bigger the word, the more people that have said the same thing?
I believe so. Yeah. So
Yeah.
we have a lot of business strategists in the room, which is great.
Okay. Interesting. Social storytelling. I love that. That's great.
Yeah, general management. Great.
Okay. Terrific.
All right, so we can leave this up for a little bit. If I think Jeremy is going to start sharing his experience, we can keep looking on how that will change.
Okay. Yeah, so Jeremy, we'll just turn it over to you. It's a pleasure to introduce Jeremy Han, who is one of our experts. So I'm just going to let him introduce himself and talk about his role and who he's worked with and the experience of being an expert in the TBN Asia family.
Thanks, Christy. So hi guys, my name is Jeremy. Thank you for being here with us. So let me introduce myself a little bit. So in my day job, at least that's what I do. I help companies to scale up. But in TBN, what I do is I help in the SETH, so the SETH, the Social Entrepreneurs Training Hub. So I teach some of the modules there. And that gives me an opportunity to interact with these students, with the trainees, and also to work as a mentor among them, right? So let me just give like a broad overview first of what's the contribution of a mentor and why is it important to them, especially in particular to these group of people. And later on, I'll give you a little bit more of the actual step-by-step work that we got to do, right? I think the key thing of how I would phrase this would be very much helping these social entrepreneurs to work on the business rather than in the business, right? I think for those of us who are in business or, who manage organizations, who lead organizations, I think we all know that it's very easy for us to get stuck in the business, right? And we forget to look at how to run the business on top of the business. And that's actually a very, very big pain point for a lot of these social entrepreneurs because firstly, one is that they, being startups or being very resource scarce, they do a lot of things on their own, right? They take on a lot of roles on their own. So it's very, very easy for them to get too caught up or too trapped in the business details, and they forget to look at the business from the overall. So what we want to do is to help them to look at the business as a whole and to help them to build a better business model. And also on top of that would be all those other issues that come up when people run a business. And I think one of the interesting things about these social entrepreneurs is that a lot of them, they got a lot of passion. Some of them are very qualified in their own technical fields, but business is totally different. It's something totally different and unknown to them, right? And that's why it's even easier for people in these situations to get stuck in the business and not able to look at the whole thing because they don't have prior experience or they do not have a working idea of how a business actually should be. So that's actually something very, very critical for mentors to be able to help them to see the whole thing and help them to evaluate where are you at this point of time and then help you to adjust, right? So let me give you a couple of stories. There's a guy in our SETH class when I did the module on how to raise the value of your company, right? And after that, he asked me this question. He said, can you go through my pitch with me? Can you help me to look at the whole pitch that I come up with? How do I convey the value of the company to investors? And after I looked through the whole thing, I told him, I said, look, the technical details are great, right? You really, really demonstrate knowledge and everything, very scientific, very, statistically proven, but you forgot to show people one thing. What do you think the investor is most interested in when they put money into your business, right? And there's two things. One is how are you going to use the money? And second is what returns is that money going to generate? And I pointed that out to him and he said, oh my God, no, when I look at the whole pitch, there's no mention at all about these two things. There's no mention at all how this money is going to be used. And when I use it this way, it will generate what kind of a return, right? So this is what I mean by helping them to really look at the business, to blind spot the business for them at every stage of their growth and really help them to say, look, guys, I know you're good at this, but let me help you to fine tune the business model, to fine tune whatever is it that you are doing, and then make it a better business case. Right? And this comes with a mixture of skills and experience. And that is actually where I think why we need to tap onto an expert network is really because every one of us have got different areas of expertise, different levels of experience. And, it's really at your level of skill and experience will be very nicely fit into where that person's need is, right? So the bigger our pool of experts are, the more we are able to fit them nicely. Another story that I can share with you is a social entrepreneur who has been really building this business over those incubation years and slowly starting to see monetization coming, and then suddenly he kind of like hit a realization and say, oh my god, I think I'm in a sunset industry. What am I going to do, right? So like what you guys, many of you put there in the earlier survey about business strategy, right? We all know that there are different strategies for different kind of industries and different stages of growth, right? So if you're in a fast growth industry, there will be some types of strategy. But if you're caught in a sunset industry, it's a totally different kind of a strategy. So many different ways to play the game. But this guy, this social entrepreneur, he was very, very worried about that. He's like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I said, hey, calm down, right? It is really about relooking again at your strategy. And and is there a way we can break this down and see that within a sunset industry, is there a niche? Is there a niche that you can dominate and build your business, right? So it's really very much of understanding helping them to understand and make sense of the business rather than being stuck either too focused on the product or a problem, a particular phase of the industry that they might be in, because these are all very, very common obstacles, right, to us who have been in business. And that's why they need us now to be that other pair of eyes to hold a hand and tell them it's really okay. Let's break down the problem together, and this is how we're going to work it out. I think the key thing here is really about helping them be successful, right? Making them successful. We know how hard it is to be in business. I mean, social enterprise, I think, is another level of difficulty, right? But I think in business alone, it's very difficult. I mean, most of us who have had some success in business, probably we have people who helped us. Right now, it's really about applying that same set of experiences, skills, and I think very importantly, the gut feel, right? The entrepreneurial gut feel that we want to help them and say, hey, I think this is something you might need to look at from another point of view, or I think you can do this. I think one of the interesting conversations I had with one of our social entrepreneurs is, I told him, I think it's time that you get rid of your partner. Because, you know, some of these are hard decisions that is hard for them to make, right? And they just need somebody who can look at the whole thing and say, okay, this is the good, this is the bad, and I think this is where the problem is, right? With no emotions attached. And they value that kind of input, because our key thing is, I think they know that we have no vested interest in that business. We just want them to succeed, right? We just want them to make as much impact as possible. And the first step to making that impact is to survive and grow, right? It's not to fail. And I think that's really where the importance of mentors coming in to really help them, right? So that's the part about what I think is the experience and the importance of what we do. Let me share the other part now, which is more technical, which is really the actual work, right? So we have this thing called SETH, the School of Social Entrepreneurs Training Hub. There is like a fixed curriculum. So what we do is when the cohort comes in and starts their SETH program, we assign a mentor to the company. And what you're going to do is to follow the lesson, right? So there is actually a structure. You don't have to kind of like just jump in, right? So you watch the videos that they watch, right? And you tell them and say that, hey, look at your homework, get it done. And then let's go through the homework together. Let's talk about how you're going to implement this. So this is actually the door opener, right? This is just the first step for you to get a conversation going. At least there's a structure, there's a focus. It helps, it gives you an insight into their business. But what I'm seeing other mentors do, the conversations that they had, are becoming deeper and deeper. And that's what I really appreciate. Now, that's what I really think is beautiful. Because some of them are starting to say, show me your SWOT analysis, show me your cash flow projections. They're really going into the business. And I think that's really where we need your help. These social entrepreneurs need your help to really help them to make sure they succeed, right? So this is in general what we do. So maybe you have any questions, I can answer them. Or maybe Christy or somebody who wants to just help out to answer, to ask some of the questions that you think they might be in their minds, and I can just answer them.
Yeah, I'll start off with the first question, Jeremy, and then please unmute yourself and ask away. The first is, how much time does this take? I mean, if you've got a day job, right, and then you're also providing this kind of support, what's the time commitment look like for you?
I think the interesting thing about entrepreneurs, same for those businesses that I coach and same for these social entrepreneurs, is that entrepreneurs are busy people, right? So as much as we say, I want to spend time with you, they might not have time to spend with us, right? So we don't need to worry about saying like, oh my God, no. But I think it's good to just let them know and say, hey guys, let's commit, say an hour a month or an hour a week or an hour every 2 weeks. At least you let them know that you are there, right? There's no fixed time to this. You kind of like work that out with your guys, your social entrepreneur, and on your part, maybe at least for following up on the staff lessons, there's probably like 2 hours of video lessons every 2 or 3 weeks or to a month, right? But there is a kind of curriculum, and that's on your own time. But the rest of it is really about talking to them. I think what has happened with me so far is I have not set a fixed time. I just say my door is open, right? And they will just drop me a message before something happens. Like I'm going to pitch. Can you help me look through this? You know, I'm facing this problem. Can we talk about that? Right? So I just leave my door open, and usually it's like a Zoom call, maybe an hour every couple of months or something like that. If you're not following the regular SEF curriculum, right? So in a nutshell, maybe you spend a couple of hours every month just going through stuff with them.
So, and did you find that in your case anyway, did you have like specific deliverables or that you agreed on at the beginning, so that when you get to the end of your engagement or your partnership with this entrepreneur, that you know what you've done together, you have something that you've tracked your journey together?
Right. The minimum that we set based on the SEF requirements is that at the end of the SEF program, what we want to see is that the social entrepreneur is ready to pitch, right? Whichever it might be, Series A, Series B, whatever. And I think that's the bare minimum we set for a mentor, and that is you have gone through the lessons with them, and the end product is they feel confident to pitch, right? How that might take, we do not know, because every social entrepreneur is different, right? But the social entrepreneur must feel that he's now ready to take the business to a next level. Okay. So I think we keep it loose because this is not a business school, right? We're not offering anybody any degrees. We hope to see real life results at the end of the day, which is a social entrepreneur make money, make impact, and scale, right? So, but what I think is beautiful is that what I'm seeing among the mentors now is that they are going beyond. They are going beyond the SEF requirements, right? They're talking about things that are not even in the SEF curriculum. And I think that's the beauty of it, because when you start to see the impact that you're making, I think you will want to kind of go the extra mile and just make sure they succeed.
Okay, thanks for that.
Yeah,
Melvin.
Am I on?
Oh, no,
okay.
I thought you were going to say something.
Sorry, I was just wanting to comment, because if you look at the screen, I think everybody can look at the screen, right? And then it seems like you have Christy Davis, and then there are 2 other Christy Davis.
Yeah.
Okay. So in case it goes up your mind, what is this? They are actually 2 of our life coaches. One is Wan Chung. Okay, the other one is Hong Gi. So I just take this time because I basically use your link, your Zoom link, and get them in. You know,
I couldn't figure out what was going on. It's like, that's so weird.
Yeah. But I want to take this opportunity to mention also that as far as SEF is concerned, we're not only talking about helping the social enterprise scale up and get ready, but we are very much involved with training and helping the social entrepreneurs as well. So that's why life coaches, like both of them, they're so important, because Wan Chun is right now surfacing. Okay, you show his photo, his pic. So they basically enabled the what we call that, the entrepreneur. Okay, they may not have any kind of like expertise or involvement with the business itself. But for the life coach, meaning dealing with the issues of the personal life of the social entrepreneur himself, dealing with the issues of leadership, like his strengths, his focus, his communication skills, his team building. I think that's very important because the social enterprise can only rise as much as the social entrepreneur. We all know that. All right. So I thought by way of that, I just want to introduce Wan Chun, and the other one who is under the name of Chrissy Davis is Hong Yi as well, but he's somewhere in the jungle in Singapore. Yeah,
Thanks.
Okay, that's it.
So I guess two quick things on my part. One is we keep talking about Seth, and we've got Wayne here, and I'm just thinking we've got social enterprises that are going through this social enterprise training hub curriculum, but we've also got social enterprises that are in our ecosystem that we're working with or supporting that are not in Seth. Is that correct, Wayne? I'm looking at Wayne, who oversees Seth. And Wayne, can you talk a little bit perhaps about just the ecosystem around the social enterprises that we work with?
Sure. So at TBN Asia, as what Melvin mentioned, we put social enterprises at the center of all that we do, right? Which means that it's the social enterprise and the social entrepreneur. Now, the one very interesting thing about TBN Asia is this, and I keep hearing this coming back over and over again, is that our relationship with the social entrepreneurs tend to happen from 3-4 years ago, right? We have one social entrepreneur who said that it took him 3 conferences before he is before he acted on something. I was like, wow, 3 conferences. And then we have another one from our current batch of Seth that said that she was a university student, and from 3 conferences back, and then she got inspired by some of the presenters, and then 3 years later, she's now a social entrepreneur herself, and now she's in the first cohort of Seth. So our relationship with social enterprises goes beyond just those that we are formally engaging, right? So we also do a lot of informal engagement because we never know when we will end up working together. So yes, while a lot of our resources or expertise resources is right now deployed on the Seth cohort, and maybe the current one and probably the immediate next one. But if there's a social enterprise that wants to come to us and just want to be friends and is looking for help, generally we will not turn them away. And I think this is what has been TBN Asia's stand so far, and why the social entrepreneurs actually appreciate TBN Asia. I'm just blown away and always very encouraged by the stories that they tell. And every time they tell us this story, I'm like, wow, you know TBN Asia even longer than I have, right? They are like, this has been like a 5-6 years kind of journey with them. So it's always an encouragement. And we that's one piece. I think TBN Asia has grown quite a bit because we started out really just from the conference and events piece, where we just want to connect like-minded people. Then we moved on to say that how else can we better support these social entrepreneurs? So capacity building or capability building is definitely one piece. That's where Seth is. And that includes the expertise network, which we are saying that now, even though social entrepreneurs are the heart of who we do, or who we try to support, there are other people that wants to come on in. How do we open up this avenue for them? So the expertise network is one. The Investors Club is another one, whereby we say that if you are someone who is curious about impact investment, want to dabble into it, want to hear war stories from people who have done it, join us as well. So these are kind of how we wrap pieces, different pillars, the 5 different pillars around the social entrepreneurs, and expanding the number of the number of stakeholders that we can engage at the same time.
Got it. Great. That's really helpful. Thanks, Wayne. So what other questions does anybody have? Anything's game here. There's no obligation, obviously. There's no commitments that you need to make. It's just gathering information. Feel free.
Here's a question in the chat, Christy.
Okay, yeah, Jeremiah, will the mentor and mentee matching be done by Seth? I.e., does a mentor have a choice in the matching?
Let me answer that. Okay, when you are a business mentor, we generally pair you up with a business that is very close, or rather we do the reverse, right? If an agriculture business mentor, an agriculture social enterprise is looking for a mentor, usually they appreciate someone who also understands agriculture generally, right? If it's something like in this cohort, we have something very interesting. We had a social enterprise that was focused on fashion, and we actually managed to find a business mentor that is in the fashion industry. So it was a perfect match. Now, there could be instances whereby, let's say, there are two companies that are very close, right, in terms of what they do. And then if the business mentor also is very close, then I guess it all boils down to chemistry. If the business mentor thinks that he works better with social enterprise A instead of social enterprise B, I guess we will let nature take this course. But we just have to clarify, though, the business mentor matching tends to be a lot more on the social enterprise first in terms of what they need, and then we find out how to source for the right business mentors.
Yeah, actually, Wayne, just to follow up on there, because there's another question regarding that. So we were talking about coaches and mentoring, but then there's the real specialist advisors. And so then how, I mean, so let's say you've got expertise specifically in HR, and there's a need for HR expertise. How does that work? Where maybe that social entrepreneur already has a mentor or coach, but then there's this need for this plug of HR expertise. How does that work?
Very good question. Business mentors tend to engage more one-to-one. That means one mentor to one mentee, because it all ties down to the proximity of their businesses and experiences, right? Specialist advisors can do more one-to-many, meaning that the same specialist advisor can be helping two or three different social enterprises that needs help in, say, marketing, for example. Now, there's also a fair bit of matching that has to happen, we have to say. For example, because even when you say sales, anyone who has done sales before, you would understand B2C, B2B sales, B2B2C sales, B2G sales are all different. That's one. If you're into, say, legal or accounting or HR, understanding the local regulation is important, right? So we probably want to match you with an advisor who has local knowledge. So we do take into consideration all the different nuances. Some are geographical, some are by subsegments, to make sure that's the best fit. But advisors, because in terms of the touch point, we think is definitely not as heavy as the business mentor. So usually we allow we ask if an advisor is okay to just help maybe two or three. Usually it's more light touch. We also want to make sure that our social enterprises don't abuse our mentors or advisors, because now if they're seeing them as free professional consultants, I think they're missing the point. If they require more than, 2 sessions or more, maybe they should consider looking at some form of more longer term sustainable engagement, which may involve some commercials. So we want to be very clear with our social enterprises on that as well, that this is, yes, you get pro bono consultations, but you are not asking the person to literally volunteer with you.
Right, right. So another great question that's coming, because we have talked about, actually we haven't talked much about it, and that is the whole concept of mutual benefit, which is something we are a firm believer in, that there's value that is generated for everyone, whether you're the expert or the volunteer, whether you're a social enterprise. And so a question, actually I'll share, I'll toss this to Jeremy maybe first. And then perhaps Melvin or Bernice or Wayne can also chime in. What's in it for you? Jeremy, why do you do this, and how does it help you? How do you find benefit through this arrangement and through the work that you do, the volunteering that you do?
I think the work here, the kind of benefit is very different from how we would measure benefit compared to building a career, right? Because there's no promotions, there's no bonuses, there's no share options, there's no dividends, right? But I think the key thing here is really about knowing that your skill sets has got a different ROI, right? That's not measurable by money. And we all know that in all the studies on human behavior, it is actually impact and benefit to other people that actually helps us grow the most, right? That's the biggest intrinsic motivator for our own growth, right? And I think one interesting thing is really when you work with these social entrepreneurs, you can't help but get inspired. You can't help but be constantly challenged, because when you look at their problems and then you got, how do I figure this out, right? It forces you to learn and to grow. Like, for example, I've got to go learn about the charcoal barbecue business in the Philippines. Although I do a lot of business in the Philippines, but I never looked at that sector before, right? And I've got to look at the animal feed industry, right? What kind of ingredients is used, because one of our guys in our set does seaweed, which is used to make animal feed, right? I mean, fortunately, I have clients who do pet food, right? So I'm like, okay, let me go figure this out, right? But I think when you are motivated to help these social entrepreneurs to grow, then it forces you to grow. I mean, it encourages you to grow and to learn. And I think that's great, because the spin-off is that as a business coach to a lot of CEOs in Asia Pacific, I never know what next industry I'm going to be working with. So sometimes, oh yeah, because of Seth, no, I've heard of this. I've done some research on that, right? So that kind of like helps. So I think the key thing is really about the motivation to grow, right? When you see these guys, facing the kind of challenges that they have, it motivates you to grow, and that growth translates back into your own growth, your own benefit, your own learning, right? I always think that we need to learn ourselves out of every problem. So COVID is a great example. Tomorrow I'm going to be on an interview with the US, with someone in the US, on how to learn yourself out of a crisis for businesses. And I think that as you kind of like help these people learn their way out of crisis, out of their business problems, it adds to our knowledge bank, right? It builds up our own repertoire of skills, knowledge of industries and all that. And I think that in itself has got great value. But of course, that's just looking at it from a very knowledge, skills wise. I think the greatest reward is really that you know that there's another level of ROI on your skills, right? It's not just the skills that you build your career and your business and your livelihood, but you know that your skills are building the livelihood for tens, for hundreds, for thousands of people eventually. I think that's, to me, is the biggest benefit.
Jeremy, thank you so much. Bernice, can I ask you to share? What's in it for you?
Yeah, I think for me, it's actually quite similar to what Jeremy is saying, is that I think that when you are in a job or in a career path, oftentimes it's quite linear. It's you're in an industry, you're kind of stuck in one industry, you're excelling in there, and you're leveling up in that very particular area. I think this just gives you a completely a huge variety which you can get plugged in different industries, different people of different countries that you're getting to be involved with, where they are as social entrepreneurs. You're getting to see just a different kind of side of the enterprises in the region. So I think it just, for me, it expands what, I'm based here in Singapore. I've been in Singapore for a long time. What I've been working in, it's quite linear, but whereas working with social entrepreneurs across industries, across levels of education, hearing their backgrounds, hearing the stories, and hearing the obstacles that they're going through, I think, again, it gives, being intimately involved with that, it really opens your eyes into what else is happening. And I think that's of huge value as well.
Oh, thank you. Wayne, you want to chip in? Anything on top of those?
I would really echo what Jeremy is saying. One of the things I never expect is when you work with the social entrepreneur enterprises, the amount of things that you're exposed to and learn is astounding, right? I same thing. I don't know anything about charcoal. I don't know anything about seaweed. I didn't know anything about refugees, for example. But I'm just blown away and how much I'm learning, and and the learning is really rich on a personal level. I really feel enriched knowledge-wise. So I think there are intangible returns and I think it's quantifiable over time. It's just that it may not be apparently obvious at first glance, and maybe not in the short term.
Okay, great. Thank you. Anybody else want to share on that topic of mutual benefit? Any questions, any concerns, any other personal experiences?
Well, maybe I'll just share a little bit about that. I actually spent 18 years in the social services, including pastoring, so altogether. And there's a lot of richness in helping other people. But the social services, for example, working with ex-prisoners, ex-drug addicts, and so on. So something which is of benefit when you see people, being lifted up, given a second chance, and so on. But I've always been struggling about how then do you really make a difference for them in terms of livelihood. And that's where I stumbled into Agape. So I actually got involved with Agape on the call center in Singapore prisons, and I was kind of like blown away by the business model. Okay, here was one is not just a social service, but they combine the corporate side of it, and we are not even talking about CSR, because corporates use them because they need to outsource their call center. And that's where I begin to look at the model and say, hey, this is very liberating, because you are not just helping someone else, but you are linking up the marketplace to get them involved. So actually, in the initial stages of Agape, I actually brought in people who are in the corporates to visit the prisons. And they were like, is there something like that happening here? And then I realized that the combination of things that brings in the corporates actually not just enriches my own life, but it helps them. But actually, it actually frees me up from a lot of mental restrictions that I myself have. And I then begin to see that it's so possible to bring that about. And actually, it helps me in my own personal development as well. So I that's where I'm involved with.
Great. I'm just, thank you, Melvin. I'm going to actually follow up. There's a follow-up point from Dave on the question, that the thing that we were just talking about with mutual benefit. And I really appreciate it. So saying actually beyond mutual benefit, he said, the impression I'm getting is that this is not a network, but it's a pool of volunteers. So actually it's both, but we're just establishing it right now, Dave. So what the goal is that it becomes a network. So one of the reasons that we are calling it a network is so that you're not just out there on a roster and we call you when we have a need, but that there will actually be engagement across those of you. So part of it, that your network will grow as a result of joining this network. But we will be very intentional also about facilitating opportunities that you'll be able to meet and get to know one another. And frankly, it's brand new and we're just getting this set up. If you have ideas about what you would want to see from a network, would love to hear it. Absolutely love to hear it. It's a good point. What other questions are out there or comments?
I was wondering, I mean, I know I read somewhat with Jeremy. He's a scale-up coach for corporates. But Jeremy, maybe you can share about how in your work with corporates, you actually network them with corporates for good. Okay, and that kind of like deepens your own repertoire of training as well.
I think
I don't
one
know
very
what's
interesting recent development is Mason, our other co-founder, right, was asking me how close am I with the Ayala Foundation in the Philippines, right? So I'm not sure any of you are familiar with the Ayala family. They're one of those, I think they're top 3 or top 5 conglomerates in the Philippines. Right? I think Ayala Corporation is the oldest corporation in the Philippines, and I do some work with them. So one of their subsidiaries CEOs, CFO, recently was transferred to the foundation to become the CFO. So when Mason asked me this question, I said, well, at least I have direct access to the CFO, right? We are on first name basis, at least. I can email her anytime, invited her for TBN conference. In fact, I have another client in the Philippines that was looking to create a scholarship, and I tied them with the Ayala Foundation to fund the scholars in the Ayala Foundation, right? So it kind of like created a little network within my network. And ultimately, all this ties back to how do I now bring TBN in, right? Because I think one of the things we talk about is the Resilience Fund. And can we find an anchor partner in the Philippines to help us to start the Resilience Fund? So one of the possibilities that Mason was talking about would be, hey, can we talk to the Ayala Foundation about that, right? So I'm gonna be looking for a time slot for me to talk to them, right? Get on a call and start asking them and say, hey, can we do this together? So it's interesting because that's actually how, in the work that I do, and the TBN network is starting to kind of like merge, right? And starting to able to connect the resources. So that's actually where I think the network effect is very important. And like what Chrissy says, it's not just for volunteers, but it is really about creating a network of stakeholders, of like-minded people that eventually where our lines will cross. There's another actually very interesting incident that happened once because one of my clients in the Philippines, another of these big families guys, he wanted to start a safari in Africa as a pet project. And he asked me, do you know anybody who knows how to start a safari? I said, yeah. I know someone who runs a safari that just got listed on the London Stock Exchange, right? Let me email you to talk, right? And that's actually really, when we talk about the network, it's really where you can join the dots between both the social and the social enterprise networks and your own networks, right? And that's very interesting to me, how everything eventually kind of comes together.
Thanks, Jeremy. It's a great point. I'm sorry, I'm just checking the chat while we go here. So maybe as we're just winding up, it is time. Bernice is going to put, and so back to the actual needs that we have, I think definitely this really building a network and experiencing this network event is something that it's a priority. I think it's important to all of us. It certainly is to me. I'm a volunteer too. And being associated with TBN Asia has definitely grown my personal networks and allowed me opportunities, I guess, laterally in a sense, as well as working, vertically with the organization. So we will point very, very well taken. We'll continue to explore ways to encourage that network effect. So on the needs, we're just putting flashing the needs back up, just so you can see some of the opportunities we have. As you're looking at this, next steps, we do have a simple kind of an application form that's really just for us to know about you and what you have to offer and what you'd like to offer and your expertise. We'll put it in the chat. We'll also follow up with an email. It's just a Google form, so it's quite simple. And we'd love to continue the conversation and to have conversations with you and answer any further questions or concerns that you have. If you've got others that you'd like to introduce, great. If this isn't the right time, that's fine too. We're just really happy that you could join us. I'll just say that it's a really this group of people, this ecosystem are just wonderful. It's energizing, it's interesting. My network has grown, and I feel like I've done nothing but benefit as a result of being part of this. Quite special, actually. So that's all I've got on my side. Melvin, anything else as our chair here, the leader of the pack? Anything else you'd like to share as we wrap this up?
I think that's an interesting question. Maybe you want to address that before we end, about how we can learn from each other.
All right, hang on a second. How we
Where is
can
that?
learn.
From
It's
Pinal.
in the chat. It's in the chat.
Oh, from Pinal. Oh, thanks so much. Oh, Pinal, so sorry. Let me read really quickly.
Okay.
Or Jeremy, do you want to dig in while I read?
Okay.
See,
yeah,
that's what
I
you get
think-
about pointing it out to me. That's what you get. You have to answer the question first.
Yeah, I think there is definitely opportunity for us to learn from each other, because one of the things that we want to eventually do as well is really to have these regular sharing sessions, I think, within the TBN community. So that's really where we also share skills, our networks, and the experiences of helping each other. Because the way we envision this, and we have done it a little bit with the UK side, right? We learn actually a lot from their networks on how to start TBN and all this kind of thing. And the good thing about TBN is that it gives us all a common motivation, right? We're all here to share and help each other, because when we help each other, we're actually helping these social enterprises, right? And that kind of like creates an environment that makes it very conducive for us to share and learn. And that's something that eventually we can build it into the whole structure, so that the experts, the mentors, the coaches, and all that, we do have a chance to learn from each other. I think Kim Pong did something like that, right? Kind of like taught us about the reframe and all that, kind of a strength finder and all that, right?
Right.
It's a great idea, because others could, if maybe someone wants to host a cross network session, and so Jeremy, you've got expertise in scale up or something, and then you offer it to everyone, and there's a session on it. So it's a great idea. So we could actually host some things ourselves, but we could also share it around, and different experts could have the opportunity to share something, and we could all learn. It's a great idea. So thanks, Pinal, for a really, really good question.
Yeah.
Actually, not a question. It's a great recommendation.
Yeah, you see, one of those things that I'm learning is that the platform of TBN is fighting poverty through enterprise, and I realized that you have actually a lot of people who wanted to do something, okay, but they just don't know how. Whether you are a company looking for doing some CSR, okay, looking at doing some good, or you want to connect with other people who are, in that space. And then I find that more and more corporates are getting into the space. In other words, they are not just talking about, all right, we're going to make, triple X times of what we put in and so on, but I'm going to do good in doing that. And they realize that it benefits them in terms of staff retention, because when a company has got that kind of objectives, you have a staff that feels like, hey, the company is more than just making money and so on. So, and as a result of that, that platform connects so many things. Okay, we don't talk about regional first, because regional is so much opportunity, but it connects people. So it's actually also like a friendship group kind of idea. Okay, because there are things that you don't know where to connect with, and then if you're part of, let's say, whether it's a SAF program, whether you are part of expertise group, you begin to connect. And actually, I look at the people who are in this network, they have great resource to help you. None of us knows everything, okay? But when we link up with people, and we are in the same space. In other words, we're all trying to fight poverty through enterprise. And then you find that there are synergies where you can connect with that will help you ultimately too.
Pastor Melvin, this is Juan here. Hi. Thanks for your note for me to join this call. So I'm so glad to be here and hearing from the insights and the sharing from everyone. I just wanted to echo what Pastor Melvin was saying, because what we're noticing is there's a huge tsunami shift in the demographics and the profile of the global workforce. I mean, everywhere. We're seeing millennials comprising of easily 50% of the workforce today. In some organizations, much more. Grab is one of my main customers. Make a guess, what's the percentage of young people under the age of 35? And we all know that one of the key characteristics of the young people is, they want to do things that is meaningful. They want to do work that is centered around a sense of purpose and giving back to society. I think there's a huge force for change with the shifting demographics, and seeing the global workforce, the workforce across Asia, filled with young people with aspirations, wanting to do good, wanting to see greater meaning in what they do. It's not like the Gen Xers. I'm Gen X, growing older every day. But the young people are different. I'm working with people right now in startups, in Grab, in other places, in World Vision. Young people with great, exciting aspirations. I see a lot more openness as well to embrace not just CSR, but maybe also synergizing with social enterprises and creating new value together. So I think the paradigm is shifting into, and the window may be much more open than before to do the work that TBN is so well positioned to do.
Wow,
I just wanted to kind of share my running thoughts and echo what Pastor Melvin was saying earlier.
I could not say that better. So actually, that's a wonderful way to wrap it up, actually, which is let's create new value together. That's really well said. So thank you, An Chung. Okay, I've got one more thing here in the chat, and we're going to wrap it up. In case the volunteers are also currently providing support to earlier stage social entrepreneurs in their own network, is there any way that this volunteer role may bridge relationships between these social entrepreneurs within the TBN network? However, these social entrepreneurs are probably on a much earlier stage than the ones currently enrolled in Seth. So Wayne, perhaps I can toss that one to you about really early stage entrepreneurs. If I understand the question correctly.
Yeah, I'm trying to reread the question again.
Yeah.
Currently providing support in. Well, that could be. I'm not saying no, because social entrepreneurs come in different levels of maturity. Some start off with nothing more than an interest, and some are really investment ready, but in between the spectrum is really huge. So Seth is really focused more on the investment readiness part. But I think in that process of that whole journey, definitely there is a space to help some of the social entrepreneurs. But there are also very good programs out there that we are also looking at partnering this year to help cover the space for the much more early stage ones. So we don't have just to be very upfront, we don't have a very defined program or defined engagement plan out for very early stage social entrepreneurs. But if you have any ideas, we will be happy to speak to you. That's the cool part always with something that's early stage. All people involved get to contribute, right? Or even get to co-create that whole process together. Is both the exciting part and the scary part, depending on how you look at it. I choose to see that as the exciting part. So happy to take in any inputs, but just to be clear, Seth in particular is really a lot more focused on the later stage social entrepreneurs, but we are not excluding anyone.
Okay.
Yeah,
thanks.
Can I just add on to what Wayne is saying? See, the thing is that the TBN embraces the whole ecosystem. meaning that while SEF concentrates on revenue generating social enterprises to get them investment ready, but in our conferences, you've got startups, you've got actually NGOs that are wanting to move from philanthropy to sustainability and so on. So I think in our group here, there is a guy, Jackie. Jackie, are you there? Jackie Yap?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah,
How can you notice
okay.
me?
How can I not notice you? Hey, show your face, lah, Jackie. Okay,
Okay.
let me share with you about Jackie. Jackie is right now in our SEF program. Okay. Jackie, maybe you want to show your face, your handsome face, all right, so that the others can see. So Jackie actually has been journeying with TBN ever since day one. When we started our TBN conference, we got Jackie. Okay, at that time, he was a startup. All right, and we have been journeying with him. And right now, he is in that space of revenue generating, becoming investment ready. And I really hope that there will be investors who will be looking at him. So he's a startup, and maybe Jackie, you can say a little bit about that to help. I think Citra was the one asking the question. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for noticing. Wow, my gosh, I was like, I'm not sure that is okay here because it's like, I think the fan is quite noisy, I'm not sure. But let me try to capture the stuff. Yeah, so I have been with TBN for the past 5 years. And in the beginning, it was like, oh, we get an award. And then, okay, great. Then second year is like, oh, we talked to some potential investors. But do you get funding? Oh, no. The third year is like, we are almost there. We are talking about equity and all this thing. But well, not really that much. But then with more effort and expertise provided by TBN, we signed a deal. So we signed, not a big deal, but small deal where 100,000 USD for the first round. So, and then what happened after that is like, we went into SEF and there are some stories where ups and downs. I think you guys are very familiar with that. So it's like we had a moment of wanted to give up. Wow, that's a lot of them. Not a moment, but we had moments that we're gonna give up. And then every time after TBN, I would say it's not particularly to TBN, but I think it's the heart and the heart and the sweat of the people putting into the conference. So well, it's that kind of things, right? So it bring in the magics where this morning I was just talking to Alex. I was talking to Alex, and then a while ago I was texting with Jeremy as well. So there's a lot of things happening over there. But yeah, so after talking to them, right, so they will be sharing you a very different perspective. I'm not sure what am I sharing here, but I think what I'm trying to say here, conclude everything, is that this has been the proof of the fruit of the so-called the fertilizer as well as water, and then yielding until today. And I think it's still very challenging to look forward, especially getting hit by COVID-19. But with their support and whether it's a spiritual support, business support, and all this thing, is really helpful. And I really hope that and by the way, since it's part of this getting help, right? If any one of you are in Philippines, so please do as well. I'm looking for a partner in the Philippines that I can work with, because right now, COVID-19, I can't fly to the Philippines. That means I need a new partner in the Philippines. So I do texted some of you, LinkedIn. If you don't mind, please approve me. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jackie. So Citra,
Thanks,
or
Jackie.
Chitra, yeah, just please, if you want more information or want to explore this early stage, by all means, reach out. Especially, I was going to say to Wayne. Wayne is your guy. From the faces here, we'd welcome to have that conversation. All right, so I'm just going to wrap this up in the interest of time. We've run a little bit over, but we've had all of you stick around. It's so nice. So thank you very much. We'll have a follow-up email to you. Really appreciate your questions. And gracious, I hope to see some of you join the Expertise Network, and we'll make it a really special place. Thanks, everyone. Have a good evening.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Christy. Yeah.
Thanks, Melvin.